We're going to be talking about why top performance does not guarantee you a executive position or a senior leadership role. My name is Alicia Perkins, and I help you to lead, earn, and live well. So let's go ahead and dive in. I want to talk about why having top performance does not automatically mean that you will secure a senior leadership role. I think this is really important because a lot of y'all out here are working hard, which is not a bad thing. Let me say this: you being able to work hard is a great thing. But what happens when you know that you do great work and you work hard, you're not seeing the results that you should be seeing? That's when it becomes a problem. When the work that you do does not equal up to the rewards that you should be seeing. And so I want to talk about this morning about why having top performance, it's not the end all as people think that it is. And especially when I say senior leadership, I'm really talking about probably director rolling up. We've been trained all the way up until this point that just work very hard, and then that just automatically means success, and it does not. You'll find yourself starting to spin your wheels and not really be clear on why is it that I'm not seeing the growth in my pay, in my skills, right? That you should be seeing. And I first want to say this. Let's go ahead and just deep dive in to the first one, because I see a lot of people, they'll call themselves high performers, which is not a bad thing, right? But I want you to start thinking about high potential. There's a big difference between high performers and high potentials. When you think about the word performer, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just based upon the work that you do. But when you think about high potential, it's more about where you could go from where you are now. First of all, we all know a Bob or John or Jane that don't really perform that great, right? But you still see them able to advance where they are. I want to talk about the gap between strategy and execution. I want to talk about that because I'm finding it to be, it happens a lot, but there is a gap between what you do and how you think. Because you have to know the higher that you move up, the less it is about what you do, and it's about more about how you think. And a root cause of this, or a particular symptom that you may start to experience, is that you are able to meet your goals, right? And you're able to see some success, but you don't have any influence as far as when it comes to direction, right? Or actual strategy. So when you look at the work that you do, it's good work, but when you talk about overall company strategy, you don't really have any influence in that side of it. And this is really important because when you're thinking about, or if you desire to move into those more lead roles, it is more about the influence that you have than it is about the work that you do. So a lot of times you see a lot of more tactical work on your plate. You don't have the opportunity to really stretch those skills and more of you having to build the influence that you need. When I say influence, I'm not talking about authority, because authority and influence is not the same thing. I'm talking about you being able to change the way that people think around you, and you're able to get actual buy-in. The higher that you go up in your career, the more you need to know how to get buy-in, not just how to tell people what it is that you want, but you need to be able to know how to persuade them to buy in and agree, and also believe in the vision or the strategies that you have. If you don't know how to influence people and you can't get the buy-in that you need, you can only grow so far. And that's why there's usually a gap between strategy and the work that you do. And so the way that I want you to start thinking about, again, is not what are those hard skills that I need, but how am I able to put myself in a place I can start to build the relationships that I need to, but also how am I able to start to engage with the people that I work with? Because it's not just about you being able to be friends with them. You need to know what is it going to take to actually influence them. And so when you start seeing more tactical success, meaning that you do more than you think, When you start seeing that kind of success, it can create a sense of readiness, meaning you start feeling like you are ready for those more senior lead roles. But again, thinking about, let's move away from you having to do and start thinking about how you think. I want to talk about a little more about the overall strategy piece of this as well, because the higher that you move up, the more it's about shaping strategy. I believe that if you are wanting to move up the ladder, you need to start really honing in on those thinking skills, right? Don't buy another course that is on expertise. And I say expertise, I think about maybe 2 weeks ago, I had a live stream that I did, and I talk about, are you seen as an expert? And being seen as an expert is not a bad thing. It's only a bad thing when you want to be seen as a leader, because I stand 10 tones down. You are either seen as a leader or as a expert. The higher that you move up, you cannot be seen as both. And people will fight me on this all the time. But if you know that you're wanting to be seen as a leader, stop investing in just expertise skills. You need to invest in those true leadership skills, and you knowing how to think, knowing how to get the ideas out of your head, right? Knowing how to explain that, knowing how to have it expressed so clear to where the other person on the other side of you not just agrees, but they also understand. And you can also get them excited. Friend, that's a skill. So if it's something that's not a strong suit for you, don't feel bad about it. It's just, okay, I need to invest more into this skill. And you don't want to keep thinking about the skills that will keep you as a top performer. You don't want to keep thinking about skills that keep you in that box. Think about, what are the skills that I need to invest in or to grow so I could be seen as a top leader? Because a top performer and a top leader is not the same thing, but you can do well on both sides. Okay. But you got to be clear on what side do you want to actually be on. Right. The next point I want to go into, why having top performance does not automatically mean that you will land these lead roles that you want, is it's almost the trap of you're being too valuable in the current role that you have. Right. Because when you're just too good in your role, it's hard for them to let you go. So you're like, Alicia, so what is that right balance to have to where you can still be seen as good in your role, but they can also see you for roles beyond that role? It's about you, one, having a vision beyond the role that you are in. I am a believer in you being able to plan and know where you are and where you want to actually go. Meaning, before you even accept that job, you should already have an idea of what's beyond that job. Most people don't do that. Most people are like, okay, I will just accept this position, see how it goes, and we see how things go from there. But when you have that approach, what tends to happen is that you set yourself up to box yourself in and only focus on that role, rather than being strategic and thinking about, okay, I know that I've been hired for this role, but how am I also able, as I am operating in this role, to set myself up for what's next for me? You don't let that role tell you what's next for you. You already go in knowing what's next for you. You can feel when they don't want to let you go. You can feel it. You can feel that they got you in a chokehold, a stronghold in this position. Why? Because you are good at what you do. You didn't get this far by chance. You got this far because every role that you are in, you excel at. But you don't want this to also put you in a box. So if you already know what you should know, and if you don't know, start thinking about what's next for you. Start building relationships outside of where you work. Building relationships, because you having to build relationships and you having to network, friend, are two different things. If you do well in the role, you need other people outside of your role speaking about you. You need other people in rooms that you are not in speaking about you, because we think that if we can just express the value that we have, that's enough. And in some cases, it may be, right? But if you know that this job has a stronghold on you, well, get other people starting to speak up for you. Start to see, okay, who is it that I need on my board? Because I feel like everybody should have a board, right? Who is it that I need on my board who can start to speak up for me in rooms that I am not in? Think about who is it that I need that can speak up for me outside of where I am. And this is why you cannot just go into work with the I'm just going to do my job and no, because there's opportunities outside of that. But again, if you don't have a vision beyond where you are, or you have this little cute idea, but you haven't really started thinking about what does it look like on an overall strategy side, you get stuck in your role. And now what happens is you want to now look at your role and let your role tell you which is the best way to go when it should not be that way, right? You need to start thinking about an actual growth plan. And in a growth plan doesn't always mean what's the next best step by everybody else's standards. I had a client who I was able to help her get an actual skip level. And when you hear about skip level, they're not rare, but they're not really talked about as much as they should be, because you feel like in order to get to this position, I have to get there a certain way, but that's not true. Again, you are able to set the pace at how fast you grow. That is not based upon who you work for or even the current job that you have now. When you're thinking about not allowing yourself to be boxed into the position that you have now, how are you able to express the value of your skills at a higher level? Again, that's a skill. How are you able to express the value of what you do that goes beyond the scope of work that you have? Because in reality is you should be able to. Because when you think about overall success, everybody plays a part, right? When they hire you for a job, they hire you because your skills solved a particular thing for them. But this thing usually relates to this thing usually, like it's all in this grand web, right? But it's up to you to know the part that you play, not just on your team, but in the overall success. And how does this actually translate at a higher level? A lot of you guys are over qualified for the roles that you think that you are not. And it's only because you don't talk about your experience in the right way. You minimize what you do. You talk about what you do in a very minute way. And sometimes it could be because of self doubt. Other cases, it's simply because you don't know what part of the success you play and how that relates to everybody else. And I want you to start to think about not just the job that I do, but think about what's the problems that I solve. What are the problems that you solve? And you being clear on the problems that you solve, that's going to help you to start to get clear on, oh, this is the part of the overall success that I am involved in. Okay, I am now ready to advance. What does that look like to either one, solve this problem at a more complex level, or two, how does it look if I completely change what I solve? Because that can also be an option for you as well. You thinking about, I don't want to solve this problem no more. Cool. But now how are you still able to translate and align your past experience with this new problem that you have? And so if you guys can start to just talk about what you do and stop trying to shrink it down. And sometimes you can do that because you're like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to boast. Mm-mm. Right. And stop saying we. Oh, we did this. Now, friend, use we. If it was a team effort, by all means, say the team and I. But if you know that it wasn't a we thing, if you know that it was your idea, if you know that you did spearhead this, that it started with you, own it. Say I X, Y, and Z, because that is another way to shrink your expertise. And you don't even realize that you shrink your expertise because you always talking about we when it was never a we, it was you. But sometimes we feel like we have to do that because when you are on a team, it's normal to want everybody to feel a part of the process. And guess what? Sometimes they are, but sometimes they are not. So don't feel obligated to share your accomplishments and your successes with people that did not put in on it. Okay, that is not selfish, but it's important to make sure that the people in the room know where this came from. So don't give your ideas away like that because that's what's happening. Because if you don't take credit, if you don't take credit for your ideas, my friend, somebody else will. So I don't want you to feel like it's only about, okay, this desire to make everybody feel as a team. No, that can be done in other ways. So you're not boxed in to where they feel like you are the only one who can do this job. What you want to start thinking about is what parts of your job are you able to just replicate? Meaning, show them that what you do is not something that can only be done by you. This is why I am a huge fan of you talking about what you do. Your boss should know what you do. And you're like, we talk, and I don't know. I'm not talking about just sharing with them an outline. I'm talking about they understand the full scope of your job. Because when you get really good at what you do in your role, you can even sometimes look at what you do and say, okay, what part of this can actually be replicated? That way, they understand that somebody else can also come in this position and do what I do. Now, you saying, Alicia, but if I do that, then it's easy for them to either feel like I can be fired. No, you're missing the point. This is about them being able to see you outside of that role. But if they feel like nobody else can do the job except you, where does that leave you? Because this is what happens. You can get what I call a mindset of scarcity, where you will hold on to your position with a tight, where you don't want to share anything about what you do because you like somebody else can come and snatch this from me. I don't operate like that. For one, I know what God has for me is for me. Two, I need you to understand that, baby, I'm not going to be here forever. Okay. That this is not the end of the road for me. And you need to be aware of that. From jump, you need to be aware that I'm a person that loves growth, right? I will not always be right here. Like even now with me owning a business, I have different ways that I serve in with my clients. And so I have people to say, I don't know if really want to move forward right now. You think I can sign up with you in the next month or 2 months or 3 months? I just be like, child, check back with me because I'm a business owner. I'm always growing. I'm always trying to seek ways that's going to serve my client in the best possible way. So I don't know what the Lord is going to have with me in the next 2, 3 months, right? And in your career, you need to be like that. Look, I am on a road of growth. I am on a road to wanting to operate in my full potential, whatever that looks like. And I don't have time for you and you not being sure on what it is that you want to keep me chained down to something and wait for you to decide if this is something that you need or want. I don't operate like that. I'll tell you, check back with me. And I want you to have the same attitude because you don't know what God has for you in the next 2, 3, 6, 7 months, the next year. You don't know that. So don't even allow yourself to feel obligated to a job or to anything because we don't know what this thing is going to actually look like. And so when you operate like that, you keep yourself from feeling obligated to things that you once owned, but they no longer serve you, and you keep yourself obligated to old yeses. That's an old yes. That yes was okay 6 months ago. That yes was okay 3 months ago. That yes may have even been okay last week. But things have changed. I have the kind of personality like I operate in excellence. And I didn't always think like this. I would always feel like if I obligated myself to something that I have to go through with it. And on some levels that can be true. Right. So I'm not saying that your word shouldn't mean anything. I do believe that your word is everything. But what I'm saying is that you need to be able to know what was an old yes. and what is now a new yes. I'm not going to keep myself chained down to things to please the people around me. It don't work like that. Nobody has that much control over my life except the Lord. And so I want you to even start thinking about how you operate in your career. Are you still obligating yourself to things that you have outgrown? Even though from the outside they can look like they still work for you. But do they really work for you? Even in your job. And this is why I stand so strong in you setting expectations wherever you go. Set the right expectations. I do not believe that you should start off in a new position trying to do all the things to convince the people that hired you that they made the right choice. No. When you extended me the offer, that told you that you made the right choice. I do believe that you should go in with a strong 90-day plan to set the right expectations. Absolutely. So I'm not saying to just not show up and work. What I'm saying is I will not start off on the foot of I'm going to say yes to everything and do all the things so I can appear valuable in your eyes. I was already valuable in your eyes because you extended me the job offer out of the other 400 people that applied for this role. Now it's about me being able to start this position and start building. I will not start off on the foot of I got to do all the things to convince you guys that you made the right choice. But what I will do is I will show up in excellence and build, not prove. So I'm all about you setting the right expectation because what happens is people will go all in. And it's not about not going all in, it's about going all in on the right thing. You have people who will go all in, have no expectations. You just started the position. You haven't even got clear on what is it that they actually need from you. They could want a whole lot of things. But hold up here, I'm new, right? What are the most important objectives that we have for the first 90 days? That's what I'm going to focus on, right? Because I know that if I can get clear on that, that sets me on a clear foot. It sets the right tone for our relationship that what you hired me for, I will do. But what I'm not going to do is start off trying to do everything and fix everything in the first 3 months when I don't even have a clear understanding of what you need. And because if you don't, what happens is you start off on 5,000 and then month 6 you are burnt out, and then now you want to start slowing down because you realize that this expectation that I have set is not sustainable. It was cute, but it's not sustainable for my health. And so now when you start at a 5,000 and you start to inch down to what they originally hired you for at first, now you look like you are slacking. I'm not slacking. I just set an expectation that I couldn't even keep up with. Why? It all comes from a lot of times I got to prove. I'm not proving nothing. But what I am going to do is build. And what I am going to do is I will operate in excellence and show up the way that I need to show up. And if I decide to do more, you better best believe that more is going to also serve me. I'm being strategic in the more that I give, or if there's any extra that I give, I'm going to be strategic in that because it can't just serve you. It got to serve me too. Because that's how everybody ends up happy when everybody's being served. Not just, yes, me, I'll do it, and it ain't serving you one iota. But when you can start saying, okay, I don't mind having to go above because I understand that this is going to work for my good, that this is going to put me in a position of success, that I can now not just help you reach your goals, but this will also help me reach my goals. So the next point that I want to go, okay, we already talked about the gap between strategy and tactical work. That keeps you from not being able to advance in those more lead positions. We also talked about you being perceived as too valuable in your role. And now I want to talk about, which it goes back a little bit to what I was talking about earlier, was you being able to connect your success to company success or to company impact. You have to be able to translate what you do. This is why I talk a lot about you being able to take care of yourself. Because when you are in burnout mode or when you are in survival mode, it's so hard to connect what you do to overall success. It's hard because your mind isn't even thinking like that. Because when you are burnt out, you're only thinking about day-to-day stuff, right? Because your mind is in that trap of, I just got to make it through this day. So it's very hard for you to even think about your success outside of each day. You like, girl, success. I'm just trying to make it until 5:30 because you're just in this surviving mode. So if you are in burnt out mode, it's hard to think about that. So first, get that under control. And that's not done by a spa day, but it's done by you being able to restructure all of these obligations that you have. When you're wanting to move up the chain, it's about the top needs to be able to see how does your work drive company-wide goals. That's why you need to be clear on what are their goals. And that's why you need to like who you work for. Because all of this plays a part. If you don't too much care for who you work for, if you don't believe in who you work for, when I say believe, not saying that you have to be like their top fan, but if you don't believe in what they do to some capacity, there's not much of a drive to actually align with their overall goals. There's no drive there. And this is why I'm a firm believer that who you work for, you guys need to share the same values in some sense. I don't want to make it seem like you can't do good work, because you can do good work, but your good work will only go so far. Because we don't understand how the human mind works and how our emotions work. When you're not fully engaged in what it is that you do, and you don't fully believe in either who you work for or the work that you do, it caps you, because you will only go so far for them. Which goes back to the point I'm making now, is that you need to be able to translate your success and how it impacts their success. But if you're not clear on what it is that they need or want, because you don't really care, it makes it hard. Now, don't get too caught up these tasks you're doing every day. Step back and say, okay, if I did not do this, what would be the loss here? Start thinking about it like that. Like, start getting more business minded and start to take yourself out of just the job that you do every day. Like, it's about having the skill of being able to translate the value that you bring on a much larger scale. And another way you can do this is to get with people and build relationships with people with job titles that you want, and hear them talk about what it is that they do. It surprises me how much we don't understand when you're wanting to advance in your career. 80% of the questions that you have and the doubts that you have, you could really overcome them if you would just have more conversations. Not just thinking that you have to feel your way through this. You don't. And it's not saying as you advance in your career that it won't be certain like hardships that you have to face, but a lot of the doubts or the concerns that you have, you could overcome them quickly if you would just start to talk more. If you would just get with the people with the job titles that you want and start having the conversations that you need to have. And it's almost like to get into the habit of, I don't have to figure everything out on my own. You can listen to me or podcasts or other people, but it's something about when you can get information that is tailored specifically for you. Because even if you hear this stream, it can help you a lot. But think about how much more it could help you if I was giving you specific information that related towards you and the goals that you have. In times in your career when you feel stuck, when you feel unsure, it's because you lack information. You don't lack experience, you don't lack skills, you just lack information, meaning what is the information that I need that will lead me from point A to point B? So it's do what you got to do to get the information that you need. And I say all the time that knowledge breeds confidence. If you are not feeling sure in your career, it's because you lack knowledge of something. Go seek out the knowledge. And if you're like, I don't really know what I don't know, start to ask questions. I don't think that we allow ourselves enough opportunity to just explore. And we don't allow ourselves the opportunity to feel unsure for a moment and lean into that. In the times that you feel unsure, don't be in a rush to hide the fact that you are unsure. Lean into that. Why do I not feel sure right now? Don't put so much focus on I'm not sure. Put the focus on why. Why is it that I'm not sure? Why is it that 6 months ago I was sure, but now I'm not sure? Because when you start feeling unsure, that is an alarm happening. Okay, something has changed. It doesn't always mean it's a bad thing either. Something has changed to where I need more knowledge of something. So lean into that there is a gap in how ready you feel and how ready the people around you feel. You can feel like girl, I am ready for this next role. Role is mine. But do the people around you feel that way? And the thing about it is, it's not even saying that you're not ready, but it's like, what is it that people see? And this is where emotional intelligence comes into play. It's not just about knowing yourself, it's about how do other people know you? And this can help you in your career, in your marriage, with your kids, with your friends. This can help you in all areas of life. You know how you show up, but how do other people see you when you show up? Two different things. And so that's why I do believe in the idea of not to care about what other people think about you to a certain extent, because you may not necessarily have to care what people think about you, but in some cases, you need to know what people think about you because that can be seen as data, right? Not saying that it's true, but it's still data. My husband says if you feel like people always misunderstand you or they always get the wrong idea about you, something needs to change. You either need to change what you are actually doing or you need to change the way that it's being done. Because you could do the right thing in the wrong way. And so that leaves you without excuse. When you say, okay, you may not need to change how you think about something, but you may need to change how it's expressed. It's not the things you say, it's what you say. It's the same thing. And so you may not need to go and add on a whole bunch of other new skills in order to advance your career. Maybe you need to change the way that you show up in your skills. But on the opposite side, you may not feel like you are in a place for that next position, but the other people around you can see that you are. So, this is why it's important to be aware of yourself. This is why it's important to know where you are. It's important to know where are your growth gaps. And so you can be aware of this. I feel like I'm ready for this VP role. I keep trying to advance into it. They keep saying not right now. What's the gap there? And this is why it's also a skill in learning how to get detailed feedback. Don't just let somebody keep pushing you around with not right now. Anytime somebody says not right now, that's a door to start a conversation with why. If you feel like I am not ready for this role right now, can you share with me the things that you feel like I need to focus on so I can be the right fit for this role? Start to ask questions. Put your ego aside and say, okay, what is it that I may not be seeing that you see? Because you may see that you do your job very well. And friend, you probably do. But to them, they're like, you're not as sure in it as you should be. You may feel like you have great ideas, but how are you able to clearly express them? That's the thing. So it's not saying that there is something wrong with you. It doesn't even mean that you lack something. You may just need to refine some things. And so if you are seeing that you feel like you've been ready, but these opportunities, they are not opening up as easy as you think that you should, you need to get around the people who has to decide and say, okay, what is it? Don't ever be afraid to hear feedback. Even if the feedback don't always come from the right place, that feedback can still help you. You still got data. There could be times when the people that you work with have unspoken expectations of you. And it's, if I knew this, I would happily do it. But a lot of times, the expectations that people have of you, they eventually come out in conversations, not just one. They come out in conversations and they usually happen when you start it. We can't have these childlike mindsets of if they got something to say, they should say it. We don't have time for that. We don't. You need data. And the more conversations that you have, the more data you will have. But what I've learned about people is that people often will frame what they think about you based upon the areas that they are insecure in. And you can't fix anybody's insecurities. You can't, my friend. And if you try to, I can almost guarantee you that you are spending too much time on them and not enough time on you. Another thing is that folks will feel the way that they choose to feel. And it's the thing about feelings. The Lord had to show me this. Nobody can make me feel a way. I have to allow them to make me feel a certain way. Now, we do owe it to ourselves and to them to make sure, okay, am I doing anything that could make them feel this way? Again, I still think that you need to be aware of yourself. But for me to constantly be in this, I don't want to do this because they may think this game, that takes you off of your expertise, that takes you off the focus of why you are there at work. Because we are not there at work to have to just cater to everybody who works with us. Now, there is a level of respect that we show, there's a level of care and love, absolutely. But I am not going to make myself in control of every thought that you have about me. Child, who has time for that? I don't even have time to entertain the thoughts that I have of my own self in my mind. I don't even have time for that. So what make you think I'm gonna have time to be focused on everything that you could possibly think about me? This is why I say it's about having continual conversations. And when it comes to this, I've noticed this, especially in the workplace. The more relationship you have with people, the less opportunity there is for them to be offended by you. Now, let me explain, because I know you like, no, that ain't. Hold on. Hold on, friend. Now, I said relationship. I didn't say friendship. Two different things, right? Because I can have a relationship with you without having a friendship with you. And this kind of stops the thoughts I'm hearing from you guys. I don't want to be friends. This is not about being friends with people. This is about you knowing how to build relationships and how to engage and connect with the people around you. That's all that it is. The girl who does my hair, right? I can't say that we are friends. I only talk to her when it's time to get my hair done. But I have a relationship with her. A lot of the styles I get, they are styles that take hours, okay? So I'm like, if I'm sitting in your chair for hours, I like to talk. Let's talk. So when I'm getting my hair done by her, we laughing, talking, all of that stuff. But I can honestly say that we are not friends, but there is a relationship there. And so We don't share like our deep areas of our life and no, but when I'm around her, I'm able to connect with her, I'm able to engage with her. And so back to my original point when I was saying that I've noticed that the more relationship that you have with somebody, the less opportunity it is for them to feel away. I'm not saying this is like this all the time because it goes back to my other point. If somebody chooses to have a problem with you, they will. But if you just get to know them more, like every time you're around them, you shut down. You're not finding opportunities to engage and connect. I see it with people who lead teams. It's like you can't only talk to the people on your team about work and you expect to have the power to actually influence them when you don't ever talk to them, because having influence comes from trust, and it's not that hard to build trust as you think it is, because there are folks who I've never met online, but you see my content all the time. You know what it is that I stand for. So you can feel a level of trust with me, even though you've never sat down and actually talked with me before. You've actually never met me, but there is a level of trust you have with me through certain things. So in the workplace, don't think the only way that you can gain trust is that you always have to be best friends with people. No, that's not how it works. You are able to build influence and trust when you can be consistent in how you show up, meaning one day you not in a really happy mood and then the other day you stank mood. But if you can be consistent in how you show up, that can gain the trust of the people that you work with. So, what I was talking about is sometimes there are those unspoken expectations that people have of you. But if you can just simply get opportunities and find opportunities to simply have more conversations with people, those expectations will slowly start to arise. The first point was there is a gap between strategy and tactical. The next point was when you are being seen as too valuable in the role that you have now. And then I talked about you being able to connect your achievements and your results to their success. And then I talked about there is the alignment of how you see yourself and how other people see you, that there is a gap. And it's simply about you being able to understand that I may not have yet tapped into everything that I need, but it doesn't mean that you may be as far from that goal as you think you are. It's simply about you being able to understand what is it that they even need from me. Because sometimes we can tend to overthink things, or we can tend to assume something and we haven't really found out if that's even true. And also, when you're thinking about advancing, it's also about you understanding what it means to advance on your terms. What do you want this next role to actually look like for you? Because and I'm all about you being able to advance on your terms, meaning you be clear on what it is that you want. Then you start to go seek out the opportunities. But don't just not be clear on what you want and then all of a sudden you're already not clear. And now what happens is you just find opportunities and just hope that they just land. No, get clear on what you want first. Then start to source opportunities that's going to align with that. And so when you do find your next position, and there are the moments of maybe stress that could be involved because all jobs have stress, right? Now it's all about, okay, now I need to figure out not what it is that I need to do, but who is it that I need to be in order to be able to keep this success that I want. Also, if you want to work with me, let's chat, and I will see you guys later. Bye.